You wake up. Before the world touches you, before notifications crack the silence, before your mind is pulled into motion. There's a pause, a soft space, a threshold. It lasts maybe a few seconds. And in that moment, fragile, fleeting, you have a choice: to fill the space or to meet it. Most people skip this part. They reach for their phone, they scroll, they check, they react. And just like that, the entire day begins from the outside. But what if, like, instead you turned inward first? Not with effort, not with meditation, just with one question. How am I really? Not how should I be? Not what do I have to do today? Not what's wrong with me? Just that one sentence. Simple, honest, unfiltered. And then you listen. This is not a performance. It's not a productivity hack. It's a ritual of return. To ask yourself how you truly are, before the world tells you who to be, is a quiet act of self-respect. You are not trying to fix anything. You are not demanding answers. You are simply noticing. And that noticing is where regulation begins, because what you resist tenses, but what you witness softens. Think of the nervous system like a tight thread. The moment you acknowledge tension, without judgment, it begins to loosen. That's the miracle of presence. And this question is your entry point. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not to impress, but to remind himself who he was becoming. Each morning he practiced reflection, not for productivity but for clarity. Seneca too believed that the beginning of each day must start with awareness before action. He asked, where did I fall short? Where was I brave? What remains? Unclear. But what if, before reviewing the day, we learn to check in before the day begins? Let's make it practical. Tomorrow morning, wake up. Don't touch your phone. Sit on the edge of your bed. Place one hand on your chest and ask softly, how am I really? Let whatever rises, rise tension, numbness, hope, sadness, calm. No need to label it. No need to analyze it. Just be with it. Because presence doesn't mean feeling good. It means feeling true. And once you've returned to what's true, even if it's uncomfortable, you move through your day differently. You speak with more awareness. You pause before reacting. You breathe deeper. You carry yourself like someone connected to themselves, not floating, not chasing, just here. Over time, this habit becomes a thread. It weaves your mornings back to your body. It teaches you that energy doesn't come from pushing. It comes from alignment, and alignment comes from honesty. You don't need a journal. You don't need a wellness app. You just need one honest moment of reflection, daily. And from that 1 minute, the rest of the day begins to shift. Not because the outside world changed, but because you met yourself first. Your mind is not the only thing that gets stuck. Sometimes it's your body. Same desk, same chair, same angle. Looking at the world through a fixed frame, day after day after day, and slowly, without noticing, your thoughts begin to reflect. Your posture stiff, linear, predictable. But what if clarity didn't begin in your head? What if it began with your position? Every day your body rehearses the same geography. You sit the same way, face the same direction, move in the same patterns. And just like water carving through rock, those movements carve ruts in your spine, in your breath, in your brain. But the good news? The moment you change your posture, even slightly, you change your perception. You don't need a gym. You don't need a yoga mat. You don't need a routine. You just need to break the physical loop. That means sit somewhere new. Stand on your desk chair and look out the window. Lie on the floor and stare at the ceiling. Turn your chair 90 degrees. Walk backward for 5 seconds. Tilt your head all the way back and blink at the sky. These aren't hacks, they're interruptions. Tiny jolts to your sensory system that say, "We're not on repeat today. This is a new moment." And your nervous system, craving novelty, wakes up. This isn't just theory. Neuroscientists call it sensor-motor integration, the loop between how you move and how you feel. When you change your orientation to the space around you, you stimulate different neural pathways. You don't need effort. You need angles. Because sometimes the fastest way to change your mindset is to change your line of sight. The Stoics practice this too, though in different language. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." What if views isn't just about thoughts? What if it's also about physical vision? If you've been staring at the same wall for 3 hours, maybe you don't need more motivation. Maybe you just need to look somewhere else. Let's make it simple. Once a day, do something weird with your body. Not painful, not extreme, just unfamiliar. Sit in a closet for 5 minutes, crouch under your desk, stand on one leg while brushing your teeth. Why? Because your perspective follows posture, and when your body says, "This is different," your mind begins to ask, "What else could be different?" And that is the beginning of shift. This is not about being productive. It's about being present. You can't solve a looping thought by thinking harder, but you can disrupt the loop through sensation. Even a child knows this. They roll, twist, climb, crawl, not because they're told to, but because it feels good to see the world differently. You are still allowed to do that. You are still allowed to move strangely to feel clearly. So next time your day feels tight, don't just breathe. Change your angle. Turn upside down. Look out a new window. Stand barefoot on a cold tile. Let your senses remember, this is not yesterday, this is now. Over time, this becomes a ritual. You start to notice. A new idea comes when you lie down. A solution appears when you walk in circles. The tension in your neck eases when you face west instead of east. You didn't change your mind. You changed your orientation, and through it, you returned to something deeper than thought. You returned to the body, to perception, to the living world that surrounds you and reflects you. If only you're willing to turn your head. We move too fast, not in distance but in attention. We rush through breakfast, we skim conversations. We half listen, half scroll, half breathe, all at once. And the result? Our minds don't just become tired, they become untethered, floating above life. Watching it happen, but not feeling inside it. But the cure isn't to do more. It's to do one thing, the most ordinary thing, and differently. With slowness, with care, with intention. Choose something small, something boring. Washing a cup, folding a shirt, locking the door, buttoning your shirt, pouring water, and do it as if it were a ceremony. Slowly, quietly, fully. Let your hands become your eyes. Let your breath join the rhythm. Let the moment stretch just a little. You are not performing. You are arriving. This is presence in its most humble form. Not stillness on a cushion. Not breathwork in a studio. Just the sacred act of attention paid to something no one else will notice but you. And in that noticing, your nervous system finds anchor. The Stoics might call this discipline in the ordinary. Marcus Aurelius never told himself to meditate. He reminded himself to Do what is necessary with care and without complaint. This is that. It's the return to simplicity, to motion without anxiety, to movement without rush. It's not about being slow. It's about being here. Science has a name for this: behavioral mindfulness. When you move slowly, not lazily, but consciously, you activate parasympathetic nervous system responses. Your breath deepens. Your cortisol lowers. Your awareness expands. It's not magic. It's design. Your body is built to feel safe. When your movements say, "There's no need to hurry. We are safe. We are present." This is why monks sweep temples one stroke at a time. Why craftsmen polish wood with reverence. Why the tea ceremony exists at all. Not because the actions are important, but because how you do them shapes how you feel about everything else. Try it now. Pick one mundane task. Anything. Take out the trash. Wash one plate, wipe your table, brush your hair, close a drawer. But do it slowly. Exaggerate the motion. Watch how your body moves. Breathe. Stay. No music. No multitasking. Just the task. And your full self doing it. What you'll notice. Thoughts start to slow down. Your hands feel more real. Your breath becomes more rhythmic. And you begin to feel anchored. Because presence doesn't only come from grand practices. Sometimes it arrives quietly. In the moment your hand wraps around a warm mug, and you feel the weight of being alive again. Over time, this becomes medicine. Whenever anxiety rises, whenever clarity fades, whenever noise overwhelms, don't retreat. Engage. Choose one small thing and do it with your full soul. That's all. And through it, remind yourself, I do not need to be faster. I need to be more here. This is how you reset your mind. Not by escaping, but by slowing down enough to meet the moment, where you are, as you are, without needing it to be profound. Because presence is already sacred. There are acts so simple, so ordinary, that we forget they are sacred. Like water. You drink it every day. A sip here, a gulp there. Plastic bottle, coffee cup. Quick, forgettable. But what if you slowed down? What if drinking water became something else? Not a task, but a return. Your body is made of water. Not just blood and skin and breath, but memory. Water holds your temperature. Water carries your pain. Water moves your emotions. Water is the language your nervous system understands best. And yet, we rarely greet it with presence. We treat it like fuel, like background, like nothing. But water is everything. Imagine this. You pour a glass, cold, clear, still. You hold it with 2 hands. Bring it to your lips. And instead of drinking fast, you pause. You smell it. You watch the light through it. You feel it touch your tongue, your throat, your chest. You trace its path, from glass to belly, from surface to center. And in that simple, ancient motion, you remember, I am a body, I am breath, I am present. This is not romanticism. It's neurobiology. When you drink slowly, with awareness, you activate the vagus nerve. The body shifts into rest and digest. Your heart rate slows. Your brain chemistry tilts toward clarity. Not because you meditated, but because you respected the sip. This is what monks do. What samurais did. What the Stoics practiced. Not in words, but in form. To drink without rush. To touch the eternal through the elemental. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, everything you see will soon alter and cease to be. Think of the nature of all that surrounds you, especially the elements. What is more elemental than water? Let this be your habit. Once a day, drink one full glass of water, like a ritual. No scrolling, no talking, no multitasking, just you and the water. Feel the glass in your hands. Smell the air above the rim. Sip slowly. Breathe between swallows. Pause when it reaches your stomach. Be with it. And notice what happens after. The mind softens. The breath slows. The moment opens. And all the static, the urgency, the fog, the overthinking loses its grip. Not because you changed anything, but because you paid attention to something real. You see, it's not about water. It's about how you meet it, and if you can meet something as small as a sip with reverence, you can meet anything with presence. That's the gift. That's the return. So next time you feel ungrounded, don't fix, don't force drink, but drink as if it matters, because it does. Not for hydration, but for remembrance. That you are human, that you are fluid, that you are alive. One slow sip at a time. You spend most of your life through layers, gloves, screens, shoes, walls, everything you interact with, filtered, insulated, softened. But beneath the routines, beneath the obligations, your body is still an animal. It was not designed for plastic, not raised by metal, not made to press buttons all day. It longs for contact and with something real, something wild, something ancient, like stone, like bark, like water, like earth. Your nervous system is not theoretical. It is tactile. And one of the fastest ways to reset your mind is to let your body remember the natural world, not for adventure, not for exercise, for reconnection. There's something primal about bare skin, touching something living, a tree, a leaf, a rock that's held sunlight since morning, a patch of grass with dew still clinging to its edge. You don't need a forest. You don't need a cabin in the Alps. You need a single moment of contact between your skin and something that doesn't need electricity to be alive. Science calls it grounding. The practice of putting your body in direct touch with the surface of the earth. Studies show it reduces inflammation, lowers cortisol, improves sleep, restores circadian rhythm. But you don't need science to feel it. You've already felt it. The calm of walking barefoot in sand, the safety of leaning against a tree trunk, the clarity that comes after holding a stone in a cold stream. These aren't poetic images. They're neurobiological invitations back to presence. The Stoics lived close to nature. They didn't fear it. They walked with it. They drew wisdom from the seasons, the rivers, the animals. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Look at the river of the stars, the alternation of all things. This is nature. This is the whole." And when he wrote this, he was not in a palace. He was in the field, among trees, horses, dust, because even an emperor needed to feel bark under his palm to remember who he was. Try this. Remove your shoes. Step onto grass, pause, breathe through your feet, or find a tree. Place your palm against the trunk. Let your fingers trace the grooves of age, or crouch. Press your hand flat into soil. Feel the temperature, the texture, the quiet life inside it. Nothing else. No goal. No measurement. Just touch. Because sometimes mental clarity doesn't come from silence, but from sensation, from reminding your system. We belong to the earth. We are part of it, not above it. And if you live in the city, there's still wind, still rain, still a patch of sunlight on concrete that warms your hand. The earth is still under you. Always. Waiting. Make this your ritual. Once a day, Touch something real, with bare skin, not a token act, a devotion. Let it remind you that you are not made of tasks. You are made of rivers and roots and skin that remembers what it means to feel. What you'll notice. You think less. You breathe deeper. You feel located. Because your soul wasn't drifting. Your body was just waiting to be included. And touch, real, grounded, elemental, brings it home. So tomorrow, when everything feels like too much, don't escape. Return. Touch a leaf. Touch a stone. Touch your own skin with care. And let that moment, touch as small as it is, and remind you, this is real, this is enough, I am here. Most of what you feel stays inside. Trapped beneath polite nods, behind small talk, under layers of performance. You carry the weight of your thoughts like closed letters. Never read aloud, never opened. But your nervous system, it listens. And it's not soothed by silence. It doesn't care how well you pretend. It cares what you release, and sometimes the thing that clears the static is not stillness, but a voice. Your voice. We speak to everyone else. Colleagues, strangers, algorithms. We comment, we message, we reply. But when was the last time you spoken to yourself, not in judgment, not in worry, but in recognition? Hey, I see what you're carrying. You don't have to fix it all right now. You're doing okay. Even 30 seconds of speaking aloud, honestly, gently, can change the chemistry of your entire day. Why? Because your voice isn't just communication, it's vibration. When you speak out loud, especially with calm, grounded tone, you activate the vagus nerve. You regulate the heart. You anchor your thoughts in auditory reality. You stop spiraling. You start processing. Think of how often your mind loops. Endless thinking, no resolution, just circles of noise. Now imagine saying one thing out loud. I'm scared, but I'm still showing up. I don't know what I need, but I'm listening. I'm not fine, but I'm not lost. The act of speaking, not yelling, not ranting, naming, breaks the spell. You move from chaos into clarity. The Stoics practiced this in their own way. They wrote letters to themselves. They reviewed their days aloud. Marcus Aurelius whispered truths into parchment, knowing that to speak something clearly is to know it fully. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality, but imagination left unspoken becomes torment. Give it air, give it sound, let it echo." Here's the practice. Step into a room, close the door, no music, no script. Set a timer, 30 seconds, then say what's true, out loud, whatever is real, right now. Even if it's messy, even if it makes no sense. Especially then, you don't need eloquence, you need witness. And who better to hear you than you? The version of you who doesn't interrupt, who doesn't minimize, who listens without agenda. Over time, this becomes a form of self-trust. Because the more you hear yourself speak, the more real you become. Not to others, to yourself. Your needs become clear. Your emotions become bearable. Your mind stops being a locked room and starts becoming a conversation. Try it now. Stand in front of a mirror, or don't. Sit by a window, or lie on the floor. Say just one sentence. This is where I am. This is what I feel. This is what I need. This is what I hope. Then breathe. Let the sound ripple through your body. Let your nervous system hear. We are not alone. We are not silent. We are honest. You'll be amazed by what happens next. A subtle shift, a softness, a steadiness. You spoke. You listened. You didn't abandon yourself in silence. And that is healing. So next time your mind won't stop spinning, next time your chest feels tight for no clear reason, next time you feel lost in your own thoughts, speak. Even just for 30 seconds. Not to fix, to feel, to remember. My voice brings me home. It begins subtly, a shift in breath, a flicker of doubt, a thought that loops, then another, and another, until suddenly, you're not in the room anymore. You're in your head, running simulations, arguing with ghosts, pacing through outcomes that may never come. And though your body is still, your mind is exhausted. This is the hidden fatigue of modern life. Overthinking. But here's the truth. You don't think your way out of thinking. You touch your way back. When the thoughts spiral, when your forehead tightens, when your breath gets shallow and you forget what grounded even feels like, bring your hand to your chest, right over the sternum, fingers flat, palm warm. Pause. Hold it there. Gently, like you would calm a child, like you would say without words, I'm here. I feel you. You can soften. This isn't symbolic. It's neurological. The center of your chest, the sternum, the heart space, is lined with nerve endings that speak directly to your brainstem. When you touch it, especially with pressure and warmth, you activate your parasympathetic system. That means breath regulation, cortisol reduction, emotional grounding, all from a single gesture. You don't need to know the science, your body already does. Think of how people comfort each other. Hand to chest, hand over heart, hugs that press sternums together. It's not romantic. It's regulatory. It says, this body is safe. This moment is okay. This mind can rest. The Stoics spoke often of returning to the body. They didn't say it like that, but they lived it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But to have power over your mind, you must first interrupt the storm, not with thought, with presence, and nothing brings presence faster than touch. Try this now. Sit or stand. Close your eyes. Place your right hand over your chest. Breathe. Slow. Through your nose. Let the warmth sink in. Let the weight settle. Then, say nothing. Just feel the hand, feel the chest rise and fall. Feel yourself begin to return. This doesn't solve everything, but it softens the edges, and in that softening you find something powerful. Reconnection, not with answers, but with self-contact. You can use this anywhere. In a meeting, at a stoplight, before sleep, mid-panic, mid-shutdown. Your hand, your chest, your breath. That's it. And here's what happens with practice. Your system begins to trust your own touch. It learns that you are not a threat, that you are the one who soothes, not shames, the one who pauses, not punishes. You begin to live less in your thoughts and more in your body, where safety lives, where clarity begins. So next time the loop starts, the what ifs, the should haves, the endless trying to figure it out, don't go higher into the head, go lower, go deeper, hand to chest, breath, stillness, and remember, I'm not just a mind that thinks, I'm a body that feels, and I can come home through contact. The sky is always there, but we rarely look up. We live our days with heads down, into screens, into problems, into thoughts that bend and twist and tangle. But above you, always, there's space. endless, shifting, patient sky. And sometimes, what the mind needs isn't more stimulation, it's expanse. Not ideas, not answers, just sky. You don't have to climb a mountain. You don't need a view. Even between buildings, there it is. Blue, or gray, or storm heavy, always waiting, always still. And when you look, truly look, something inside you begins to untighten. There is a practice, older than any religion, older than writing, older than cities. It is this: a human being, standing still, looking at the sky, saying, nothing, needing nothing, just being, under it. Why does it matter? Because the nervous system, when overwhelmed, doesn't want more information. It wants space, and nothing offers space like sky. It's boundaryless, it's uncontrollable. It doesn't respond to your moods. It doesn't speed up to match your urgency. It just is. And by witnessing that vastness, even for 30 seconds, you remind your system, I'm not trapped. I'm not as small as I feel. There's room. There's always room. You see, anxiety compresses. It shrinks your awareness down to a single point. The next thought, the next worry, the next what if. But awe, even soft awe, widens. It tells your brain, there's more here than your fear. The Stoics watched the sky, not out of sentimentality, out of philosophy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, and to make new things like them. In other words, look up. See the clouds move. See the stars flicker. See the sky evolve. And remember, you are not static either. Make it a ritual. Once a day. No phone. No narration. No expectation. Just stop. Lift your head. Find the sky. Let your eyes rest there, even for a minute. Let your mind go blank. Let your thoughts pass like clouds. Let your breath match the pace of wind. And in that moment, say nothing. Ask for nothing. Need nothing. Because presence is not always active. Sometimes it's allowing, letting the sky hold what you've been clenching. Letting the sky remind you, you're part of something bigger. You don't have to carry it all. It sounds small, but it's not. To stop, to look up, to see, truly see, is a rare kind of courage, because in that moment you're not fixing, you're not optimizing, you're not even healing, you're just witnessing. And sometimes that is more powerful than any solution. So tomorrow, when the tension builds, when you don't know what you need, when your chest tightens and your mind races, don't scroll, don't reach, just look up. Let the sky do what it's always done, hold you. Without question, without effort, without needing to be understood. Some days you don't need inspiration, you need disruption, not chaos, not crisis. Just a gentle break from the loop. Because sameness dulls you. The same chair, the same desk, the same view, day after day after day. And slowly, your nervous system stops paying attention, not out of laziness, but out of habituation. You're not unfocused, you're just unmoved. But you can change that, without travel, without therapy, without changing your life. You just sit somewhere new. That's it. Sit on the floor in a hallway you never pause in. Sit on the kitchen counter. Sit on the front steps of your building. Sit with your back to the wall instead of the window. Sit where you always stand. Sit facing the corner, and notice. Because it's not about comfort. It's about angle. When you physically change where you place your body, even by a meter, you change what your eyes see, what your ears hear, what your skin feels, and your nervous system, always scanning, always learning, perks up. You've broken the loop. You've said without words, we are not stuck. We are not on repeat. Something new is possible. This isn't psychology, it's somatic geometry. You're not fixing the brain. You're repositioning the observer. And when you move the observer, everything else, mood, thought, clarity, begins to shift too. The Stoics didn't write about chairs, but they lived by the principle. If you want a different experience of life, try approaching it from a different angle. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, walked among the streets. He sat among soldiers. He slept on the floor when he could have chosen silk, not because he had to, but because he understood something we've forgotten. That humility and freshness live in changing where you sit. Try this. Right now, stand up. Walk to the place you never sit. Maybe it's the floor. Maybe it's the bathroom rug. Maybe it's the edge of your bed, turn toward the wall. Sit. Still. Quiet. Then look around. Notice what you see, what you hear, what your breath does when you stop seeking novelty. And create it instead. You may be surprised. A new perspective. A different kind of silence. A window you forgot existed. A shaft of light hitting the wall in a way you've never noticed. These aren't distractions. They're re-entry points, because your attention, scattered, fogged, restless, often doesn't need stimulation. It needs reorientation. This is especially powerful when your mind is stuck, when you can't figure it out, when you feel off. Don't ask why. Don't journal. Don't fix. Just move your body to a new seat. Let that act, humble, physical, deliberate, be enough. Do this once a day. Let it become a habit, a way of saying to yourself, I am still here. I can choose to change, gently, without drama. I don't need a new life. I just need a new seat. Over time, you'll begin to crave it. Not because you're bored, but because you'll realize the way you place your body shapes the way you place your awareness, and sometimes a 3-foot shift in location leads to a mile of shift inside. So tomorrow, when you feel tight, looped, invisible, uninspired, don't escape. Just sit. Somewhere you never have. Let the stillness reset your system. Let the space become sacred and remind you perspective isn't found, it's chosen. We talk a lot about how we begin the day. Morning routines, cold showers, journaling, breath work, discipline. But very few people talk about how we end it. Not the sleep part, not the brushing teeth or melatonin, but the emotional punctuation, the closure. Because even when your eyes close, your mind doesn't always follow. It loops. It reviews. It replays every small mistake, every awkward word, every unfinished task. And so you lie there, body still, thoughts spinning, wondering why you're tired but not at peace. But what if it's not your energy that's restless, but your narrative? Every day, whether you realize it or not, you tell yourself a story. It begins in the morning. What kind of day will this be? And by nightfall, that story is unfinished. You didn't get closure, you didn't give the day an ending, and so your system holds on. It doesn't know if you survived it or failed it. That's where the habit comes in. One sentence. Every night. To close the loop, it doesn't need to be poetic, it doesn't need to be profound. It just needs to be true. A simple line, spoken or written, that says, this day is done. I tried. I saw beauty. I showed up. I forgive myself. Tomorrow I begin again. That one sentence is a signal, not to the world, but to your nervous system. It says, we're not stuck anymore. The page is turned, and your breath deepens, and your mind quiets. Because now, you've said the final word. This isn't journaling. It's ritual. A way of honoring your own effort, no matter how messy, incomplete, or unremarkable the day felt. You showed up. You carried things. You said things you regret. You said things that helped. You forgot some things. You remembered others. But more than anything, you lived another day, and that deserves closure. The Stoics practiced this too. At night, they reviewed, they questioned, they concluded. Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole of my day and go back over what I have done and said. I hide nothing from myself. I pass nothing by. But notice what he's doing. He's closing, not ruminating, not punishing, reflecting, so he can release." You can do the same. You don't need a notebook. You don't need a ritual table. You need one line. Every night, right before sleep or lying in bed, eyes closed, you say it, or whisper it, or think it with deep presence. Today I stayed. Today I listened. Today I forgot myself, but I returned. I am still learning. I am still becoming. This is enough. Why does this work? Because the brain seeks completion. Unfinished stories, and even tiny ones, keep the mind alert. That's why cliffhangers bother us. That's why silence after conflict keeps us awake. The brain says, but what happened next? When you give it a sentence of closure, you resolve the tension, you close the loop, and loops once closed don't scream at night. Over time, this becomes sacred, even on chaotic days. Even when you forget the practice for a while, you'll feel something. Inside you say, I need to end this day before I enter the next one. And you'll reach for a sentence, something honest, something grounding, something that says, I was here, I felt, I lived, I'm done. That's more than closure. That's dignity, because your days are not disposable. They are chapters, even the quiet ones, even the ones that feel wasted, even the ones that ache. They all deserve to be closed, not ignored. And one sentence is all it takes. So tonight, when you reach for your phone one last time, pause, turn it off, turn inwards, and ask, how do I want to close this page? Then, speak it, softly, to yourself. Like you're tucking in the younger version of you, saying, you did enough. Let go, rest, and sleep. With a body that feels seen, with a mind that's not holding on, with a heart that for now can be quiet. This is how we reset. Not with force, not with hacks, with a sentence, one final line that says, I live today, and I allow it to end. I am ready for tomorrow, but I am at peace with now. This day is closed, I am home, we live in a loud world. Not just noise in the ears, but noise in the mind, noise in the body, noise in the space between thoughts, notifications, background music, other people's opinions, your own inner narrator, always narrating. But beneath the noise, there's something we've forgotten how to hear. Silence. And silence speaks. It speaks slowly. It speaks without pressure. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't chase you. It waits until you're still enough to receive it, and when you do, what you hear isn't nothing. You hear yourself, not your voice, not your anxiety, your essence. Most of the time we run from silence because it doesn't entertain. It doesn't validate, it doesn't distract, but that's its power. Silence doesn't try to fix you, it holds you. without agenda. And when you sit in it, truly sit, something deep within begins to unwind. This is not meditation, not a practice, not a spiritual checklist. It's a moment of allowance, where you don't listen for words, you listen for space. Space between breaths, between heartbeats, between thoughts. And in that space, you begin to hear the parts of yourself you buried under productivity. The Stoics lived close to silence, not because they were passive, but because they were precise. They knew the world was noisy, political, chaotic, and yet, they trained their minds in the art of inner stillness. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because silence makes you confront the fear of not performing. And that confrontation is cleansing. Here's the habit. Once a day, or once every few, find a place where you can be still. Not to think, not to plan, just to listen. Turn off the music. Put down the book, no guided audio, no goals, just you, and the stillness between sound. Let your hearing open, not to find something but to receive everything. You'll notice the hum of a refrigerator, the bird far off you always miss, the pulse in your ears, the thoughts that sound louder, then soften, and underneath all of it, the great unspoken presence, silence. It will feel strange at first. You'll want to reach for something. You'll want to fix the discomfort. That's fine. Let it rise, let it pass. Silence is patient, you don't have to chase it. You just have to stay. What you'll begin to notice: clarity, calm, the gentle rearrangement of inner chaos. Not because you figured it out, okay, but because you listened long enough for the mind to settle on its own. Silence is not emptiness, it is depth. Try it tonight. After the lights go out, before the day closes, lie there. No headphones, no scrolling, just the dark and the silence inside it. And listen, not for meaning, not for wisdom, just for presence. You might hear something you forgot existed. Yourself. There's a truth you've been avoiding. Not because you're weak, not because you're dishonest, but because you're human. We all have them. Truths we keep in the shadows of our minds. Truths we glance at but never hold. Truths we feel, but don't name. Sometimes they're painful, sometimes they're liberating, sometimes they're just unfinished, but always they carry weight, and the longer we avoid them, the heavier everything else becomes. You carry the truth in your breath, in your posture, in the way your voice trembles at certain words, in what you don't say. And no amount of self-help, mindset work, or external success can silence it. Because the truth doesn't want to ruin you, it wants to free you. That's why this habit matters. Once a day or once a week, write down one truth you haven't admitted. Even to yourself, it can be small, it can be raw, it can be clumsy, but it must be real. It might sound like, "I'm scared I'll never feel truly understood. I envy them more than I want to admit. I feel lonelier in this relationship than I did when I was single. I miss who I used to be. I don't know what I want. I am not okay, and I'm tired of pretending I am." Or it could be softer. "I actually love quiet mornings more than parties. I need more touch than I ask for. I want to slow down, even if it means disappointing someone. I feel alive when I write, but I'm afraid to fail. The content doesn't matter. The honesty does. You're not writing to share it. You're not writing to fix it. You're writing to own it, to bring it into the light of your awareness. where shame can't grow, where clarity begins. Because here's the thing, your nervous system doesn't just store trauma, it stores secrets, even the ones you keep from yourself. And those unspoken truths, they leak out in anxiety, in indecision, in self-sabotage, in emotional fatigue that no amount of sleep can cure. Naming the truth doesn't add weight, it releases it. The Stoics weren't afraid of truth. They built their entire philosophy around it. Epictetus said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, because truth will humble you. It will soften your ego. It will burn the false narrative you've been rehearsing, but in the ashes you will find peace, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer hiding from it." This practice is not about confession, it's about reconnection. You with you. No filters, no performance, no denial, just a page and one line of truth. Try this. Sit with your journal or a blank note, breathe. Ask yourself, what truth have I been afraid to admit? Then write one sentence. That's it. And when you do, don't look away. Let it sit on the page. Let it breathe. Let it be real for once. You'll feel it, the tremble, the resistance, then the exhale. Because even if nothing changes externally, you've shifted internally. You've reclaimed your integrity. And with integrity comes peace, not perfection, not solution, but wholeness. This isn't a one-time thing. It's a lifelong habit. Because as you grow, new truths will surface. Old ones will evolve. And your job isn't to conquer them, your job is to face them gently, regularly, with love. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, don't just journal, reveal. Write the sentence you've been avoiding. Let it speak. Let it breathe and know. This is what courage looks like. Not in battle, but in stillness. Because in the end, the deepest kind of mental clarity doesn't come from new habits, new apps, or new goals. It comes from truth. And the truth, once spoken, even just to yourself, has the power to end wars you've been fighting in silence for years. One sentence at a time.